The month of April is in the books for the MLB, and we're talking May baseball here on the Baseball Talk Radio Show.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host and partner, Rich Baxter. Rich, how are you this bright, somewhat chilly but sunny day?
Oh, very good, Gary Mack. Hello, how are you? And wow, we just woke up here, and it's the end of April. I can't believe it's April 29th already as we're doing the podcast. And as you said, it's still a little chilly out there. Some nice clouds around the Northeast today, but a little bit of chill still in the air, letting us know that April's still with us.
Yeah, and we're supposed to get some warmer weather this week, so we'll see how that pans out. And Rich, you spent your Saturday night in an interesting place.
Yes, I did. We made our trip up to Philly Stadium last night. Citizens Bank Park took in a nice game with the Atlanta Braves visiting. The Braves prevailed last night. They're also beating the Phillies this afternoon in the rubber match there, threatening to take 2 out of 3 against the Phillies. But yeah, it was great to be at the ballpark. Nothing like it. I was talking to my wife a little bit afterwards, and I said, don't we appreciate going to the ballpark? It's just such a wonderful place.
And what was her answer to that?
And she said, absolutely. She's one that loves to be at the games, and she's always wanting to run up there. In fact, she wanted to run up for this afternoon's matchup, but a little chillier up in Philadelphia today, so we didn't do that. But nice time at the ballpark, plenty to see and do, and we just had a great time, even though our home team lost, but we took in some great baseball anyway.
Yeah, sometimes that's you just got to appreciate the baseball and like you say, being out in the air, being at the ballpark, and just enjoy that aspect of it. We all want to see our teams win. I understand that, but sometimes just getting to the ballpark is a lot of fun. And I used to say the same thing. Getting out on the golf course, it was just great to be out among the green grass and the flowers, and then of course then you had to play, and then that would take some of the fun out of it. But sometimes you have to just enjoy the other aspects of it, and it really becomes worthwhile if you do.
That's for sure. Nothing like getting out there, the sights and the sounds, the smells, the vendors. A lot of vendors we've noticed throughout the years, and a lot of the game day employees are the same. If you go to the stadium a few times a year, take a look around you. You probably see the same faces in certain spots. You know, your ushers, things like that. These people, they love the game. They love to be around it, and they stay 10, 20, 25 years, a lot of those people working at the ballpark, having fun, vending beer. There was a certain beer vendor. He vends Stella at $10 a can, I might add.
Yes.
So you gotta be thirsty for Stella for $10 a can.
Well, my philosophy is this. I don't go as often as I used to. I used to have partial season ticket plan, and we'd go 13 times a year or so. And I don't do that anymore. If I am lucky, if I get there twice a year. So I look at it as I'm just going to enjoy myself.
Exactly.
And the devil may care, what happens. And my wife, thankfully, is the same way. She believes that you should go have a good time, and we don't do We're not people that go on vacation a lot or fly all over the place and everything like that. So we have our little pleasures that we will spend our money on, and that happens to be one of them. And so I'm lucky that she agrees with me, has the same kind of philosophy. And we went a couple of, well, I guess a week and a half ago now, and
Uh,
it was bitter cold. So, but she was a trooper, and she wants to go again, and we'll try to go. And with me retiring, I want to maybe catch an afternoon game for a change. I don't know how she's going to like that because she doesn't like sitting in the sun too much. But I'd like to catch an afternoon game.
Yeah, those business person specials, as they call them in Philly, very popular amongst fans. And yeah, nice sunshine on you as you're watching the game. You don't get home late. That was another good thing about our game last night. It was a 6:05 start in Philadelphia, which is kind of rare um, for Phillies games. But I like the aspect of getting home a little bit earlier. You feel a little bit more refreshed when you get home. And if the game doesn't go in extra innings, it gets over at a decent time for you. So yeah, all around it was great yesterday. Great to be back to the ballpark. Had a few plays that were reviewed. I know still on the fence about that. They do get the calls right, but it really upsets the whole flow of the game. And a few times, I think three plays in a row were reviewed there at one point. It was a little tough to sit through at times.
And sometimes it's confusing when you're at the ballpark because you really don't know what the heck is going on. Until they announce it or you see the umpires huddling over in the corner. But so the big question that everybody wants to know, Rich, what did you eat at the ballpark?
Well, we had our favorite pregame meal. I guess we usually go to a place called McFadden's at the ballpark, which is a nice like Irish pub, big pub style restaurant place there. We get it there about an hour and 15, hour and a half early before first pitch, and we get our chicken sandwich, grilled chicken sandwich with provolone cheese, roasted red peppers, lettuce, tomato, onion on a nice roll. And I'm telling you, you ever go to Citizens Bank Park in Philly, stop by McFadden's, get one of those sandwiches. They make them fresh for you, so it's not like you're getting an old sandwich somewhere that's been wrapped up for
Right.
20 minutes or so. But yeah, nice hot French fries with it. So yeah, that's our pick for the stadium. It's probably been our go-to meal there for the last several years.
That sounds delicious. I'll have to get up to that and check out McFadden's for that chicken sandwich.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, we were talking. I think the Phillies travel up to New York in the mid-May, or is it the opposite? I think that the Mets come down to see the Phillies in mid-May, so maybe that'll be the next game that we try to go to. Maybe a Sunday afternoon matchup with the Phillies and the Mets. So that'd be something to look forward to.
Yeah, it looks like 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Yep, they come back. The Phillies do from a road trip, so that might be very good if the Phillies and the Mets can still uh, stay up where they are right now. The Mets have a half game lead over the Phillies in the NL East. Uh, Very entertaining here. Switching gears a little bit, let's go over to the injury report, and that's something we haven't heard of too much this year so far, Gary. We haven't had too many injuries with the big stars so far.
Yeah, so far so good. And Rich, just before we get to that, right now going on in Pittsburgh is against St. Louis, and a rookie pitcher making his first appearance is Nick Kingham is through 6 innings with a perfect game so far. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, the injuries not as bad as last year. Maybe I don't know. The Mets got hit again with two catchers this time within a week. One had Tommy John surgery, and then just when the other one gets ordained, the catcher he gets hit in the hand and breaks his hand, so he's been on the shelf for 2.5 weeks. So yeah, not too bad so far. But I see Will Myers of the Padres just got hurt. He's got an oblique strain.
Yeah, and we had a big news there with Shohei Ohtani from the Angels. We were talking about that a little bit before we started the podcast. He's day to day with a mild left ankle sprain. He injured it the other night against the Yankees, and we were both saying we thought maybe the Angels were going to be able to fend up and defend against those Yankees, but so far it hasn't been the case with this series.
Yeah, not a lot of they lost a close game Friday night, I think it was, where they went into extra innings. Last night looks like a blowout, and we'll see what happens today. But Otani's a big loss for the Angels if they lose him for any period of time.
Yeah, I was listening to a little bit of the series game with the Yankees, and they were talking about the Angels. If one of their problems are that they don't have a deep pitching rotation, they have Otani, which is going to be innings limited, and they have a few others that are going to be in the same boat. So the announcers were sort of saying that the Angels will be shopping for some pitching probably if they can still stay where they are in the standings right now. And let's take a look at the standings for the MLB. Out there in the West, it's the Houston Astros leading the way, but the Angels are a game and a half behind them. So far they've put up a pretty good showing. Have the Angels this year?
Yeah, really surprised. Like you said, their pitching isn't the strongest, but they've been playing well so far to kick off the season. And of course, Otani's the big story with Trout out there and Pujols. Seattle hanging in there too. They're only a half a game behind the Angels and two behind Houston. And but that kind of looks like the way it should be, doesn't it, Rich? With Houston on top there, the world champions, and the year that they had last year. So not too shabby. And in the Central, we got Cleveland on top now, and that's pretty much the way it should be. But Detroit is up there, and that's kind of a surprise. I don't think people thought Detroit were going to be in contention. They got rid of Verlander last year, Martinez, and so, but they're in a contention, albeit the 3 games under 500. And boy, Kansas City really has bit the bullet, huh? They're way down there, 6-20 on the year.
Yeah, and the Twins had a rough last 10 games. They went 2-8. They were doing quite well there the last time we spoke on the podcast, but they've since taken a slide. And over in the American League East, it's still the Red Sox showing the way, even though they've lost two in a row here. But suddenly, those New York Yankees have shown a little bit of that power that we expected from them so far all along in this year's season, and they've went 9-1. Gary, they've pulled themselves up to second place, only 2 games back behind the Boston Red Sox right now.
Yeah, and they won 8 in a row, so they have been on a hot streak. I still don't like their pitching. Well, I don't like anything about them. I still don't like the pitching on that team. I don't know how it's going to hold up once they get past Tanaka and Severino. They really have not much. CC Sabathia is, a wing and a prayer, and
Yeah.
they got a couple of young guys maybe that could come through, but we'll see as the season works its way through.
Yeah, they've got a powerhouse offense, but as you said, their starting pitching rotation, a little bit of a gray area there. They have Severino, Gray, and Tanaka. Um, and then, as you said, fill in twilight of his career. Um, Not expected to do too well this year. CC Sabathia, I would guess it probably would be his last year this year.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, if he has a halfway decent year and stays healthy, he could be back again. Maybe he'll convert himself into a lefty specialist out of the bullpen. But we'll have to keep an eye on that.
That's for sure. And MLB.com has jumped on the big possibility of a perfect game here. So they have chosen to start streaming that game from this point. So we'll keep an eye on here. Kingham going for perfect after 6, but they have put that game live streaming on MLB.com as well. So pretty interesting there. Keeping an eye on it myself here.
Okay. And what do we got in the National League, Rich? As we were talking about, your Phillies are hard charging, only half a game behind the Mets, who were hanging on by a fingernail onto first place there in the NL East, and Atlanta playing some decent ball as well. Washington is really the shocker there, Rich, at 11-16, and they just can't seem to get out of their own way to get started here.
That's for sure. They've had a rough first month of play. Have the Nationals, and they. I don't know. I don't know if they can recover from this. It seems like they're not the powerhouse maybe that a lot of people thought they would be carrying into this season. They're 11-16, um, three three wins out of their last 10 games. They're out on the West Coast right now, but 6 games out of first. But as you said, Gary, the team that has turned it around um, and has sort of shown itself again is the Atlanta Braves, and they've picked up the pace against the Phillies, an important series to catch up here in the NL East this weekend, and they're poised to take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies. So it's going to be an interesting race, as we were talking about right before the podcast, and we might have a three-way tie for first soon in a couple days there in the NL East.
Well, that certainly would make it interesting. I'm hoping the Mets can put it together and build some distance up again. But I think it's going to be a dogfight. Atlanta comes into New York right after this road trip, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then, as you say, you were talking about earlier, the Phillies coming in. So it's going to be an interesting month of May to see how this race starts to form, if you will, and take place. And it's going to be worth watching, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of great races this year. I mean, if you look at the Central in the National League, it's the Pirates, the Cubbies, the Cardinals. I almost said the Browns. The Cardinals and Brewers are all within a half game of each other, so pretty interesting race going on there. And Cincinnati, of course, is probably eliminated already. They're 10 games out already. So, and they're not showing too much. Got a very young team, just fired their manager. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he was the first manager fired of the year, and a little criticism over that. I heard some comments on some shows saying that the Reds didn't upgrade in the off season. They didn't do hardly anything to improve themselves. So, what did management think was going to happen with that team? And yeah, I think you can almost count them out of it here at 6-21, 10 games back. It's a shame what's happened in Cincinnati, and that's one of those medium market teams that, much like the Brewers, teams like that, the Twins, if you want to call it a mid market team like that, teams that don't have a whole lot of superstars on the team, but yet still have a Major League Baseball team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Who will be the next manager on the chopping block, so to speak, as we find out more as this 2018 season progresses. But while I get to that, I want to also thank our YouTube subscribers. We're almost up to 100 YouTube subscribers, so we appreciate you hitting the subscribe button on there, and we're getting a lot more views. So we need a ton more subscribers over on YouTube. So we record this podcast every week, both on video and on audio. So if you're listening to us from iTunes or your favorite podcast area, we thank you as well. But stop on over to our YouTube page. It's the Baseball Talk Radio Show. And to find us on the web, find out what we're doing, you can also go to our website. It's mlbthisweek.com. There you can listen to our podcast on Podomatic.com, which is a podcast provider that we use for the show. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, and they also have a Patreon page that you can be a part of the show and help us out. And Rich, you want to give them the address for that?
Yeah, you can go to patreon.com, and that's /baseball talk. www.patreon.com, patreon.com /baseball talk. You can subscribe for $1 or $2, $3 a month, whatever you want to chip in for us, and we will plow all the proceeds right back into the show. We promise you that. Just like me, Gary, I think my one mixer last week took a dump, so I put my backup mixer right on it, and hopefully it's sounding better this week.
Sounds awesome as usual, Rich, and just a little gremlin there last week, but we're used to those gremlins. Had a hard time with Mets Musings this past week with the gremlins shooting in there, but we got by and got it done, and that's the main thing.
That's for sure. We always podcasting. It sounds so easy, but it really isn't. It's a lot of the gremlins, as Gary said, show their heads quite often. So again, we want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. Check us out over at baseballtalkradio.com as well. Gary's show there, Mets Musings, and you can check his show out at metsmusings.com. You can find my Phillies Talk podcast, and in fact, I'm due to do a Phillies Talk within the next couple days, so check that out for a new edition of that, and a ton more. We got Baseball and Barbecue just added to the network, Japanese baseball talk from over in the land of the rising sun, even some European baseball talk. So baseballtalkradio.com, it's the home for great baseball talk shows. We'd like to see you stop by there and visit as well.
And Rich, some good news. Last week we were talking about the White Sox pitcher Danny Farquhar, who collapsed in the dugout, I should say, and it turned out he had a brain hemorrhage. Well, the report this week is that he is showing signs of improvement after suffering that brain hemorrhage. The White Sox team's manager, says Farquhar has taken a few short walks with his wife at the Rush Hospital intensive care unit. He was rushed to that hospital last week. So he's up and walking around, and that's excellent news for everybody that witnessed that. That was a scary situation, and he's hoping that he gets better. And it's not so much about the baseball now; it's about the man's life. So the club is wearing T-shirts that they started that say "Pray for 43." That was the number that he wore. And,
White Sox pitcher Danny Farquhar showing some.
Danny Farquhar on the road to recovery, and that's great news.
That's awesome news. It's always great to hear. Thanks for the update on that, Gary Mack. And well, we've got our next round of baseball holidays to talk about. Of course, Mother's Day coming up in a couple of weeks. Baseball will have their pink caps and things like that on the field. And Gary, have you checked out the Memorial Day caps yet? The looks like a camo green color with 5 stars on the side of the hats.
Yeah, and I know you're big on those. You like the Memorial Day caps. I'm not a necessarily a fan. What do you think of this year's one? Do you like it the way it came out?
Yeah, I really do. I like the stars on the side. Going to try to bring up a picture of here and post it here on our podcast of one of the caps here. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And I think it'll be pretty popular too. Um, they're pretty expensive as well. They're $40 regular price are these hats, but they're limited edition and they're collector's pieces. So if you some of my favorite caps are the collector's ones that you don't
Mhm.
walk right into the store and buy every day. In other words, after they're done making them, they generally don't put them back into production. So yeah, I've been shopping for my size. Got my lids card with my little discount. About ready to get my Phillies one here, but yeah, I really love the design this year. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan on the camo. I don't really it doesn't really send me, and I don't like the Mother's Day, and the Father's Day wasn't exactly thrilling me either. But you know, that's the way it is. Look, it is a business, and this just in Kingham, he lost the perfect game in the 2 outs in the seventh inning. He gave up a hit, so um, the no hitter and the perfect game is gone. But
Uh,
yeah, that one didn't look too bad. Some of them look better than others. That's the San Francisco
yep,
Giants.
yep. This is the Giants offering there, as you can see from our YouTube video. The new era makes the hats. They're pretty good, solid construction with the. What makes it for me is the little stars on the side. I like that.
Okay.
And any little thing helps.
What are the stars representing?
I guess in the sense of like maybe military stars, perhaps is what I could guess. Being that it's Memorial Day and things like that, just a little fanciness, a little extra embroidery on side of the cap there, and you can also, I don't know if you're familiar with the lid shops, but you can get players' autographs stitched onto those hats as well. If you have a certain favorite player that happens to have a contract with the MLB there, they'll stitch his um, autograph and number generally on the side of the hat that you'd like to get that on as well.
Well, I'm looking at lids right now, Rich, and do you know that they got $10 off?
Ah, very nice. Well, I might have to take advantage of that
Oh,
soon then.
I'm sorry. That's last year's cap. I'm sorry. That's
Yeah.
2017 cap.
Yeah, you can still get some of the older caps, and size becomes an issue sometimes. So check it out. Go into your local lid store. You can go online, like Ari said, lids.com. They have all the new era hats there, and yeah, it's always a great time around holidays. And like we were saying a few times before, we can remember back to the 70s and the early 80s where you could only get one cheap hat. There was just not the great selection like there is today.
And I'm just trying to see what does the July the 4th hat look like this year? Have you seen them at all?
Let's see if I think I've seen a montage of the whole year, but I don't remember them. Yeah, here it is. They are sort of your team's regular colors, so to speak, but they're going to have a flag wave through them. So I'm not terribly partial to that design myself. Uh, but it looks like, yeah, the caps are going to be red. Um, actually, maybe I'll hold out on that. It does have a flag waving through it on most of these teams' hats, but some of them are blue as well. So maybe there'll be two different designs that you could buy for 2018 for the MLB July 4th caps. But yeah, I'm just looking through them myself, and I don't know. I like the darker blue color caps, and it looks like they have the flags going through the logo, like the red, white, and blue would be in the New York designation. Yeah, you know what? I think I might be on board for a July 4th cap too this year, Gary.
Jeez.
I'm going to have to let me download this image real quick and I'll put it up for our YouTube watchers here on the podcast. But then you can get a better example of what they'll look like here. And here it is right here on our YouTube page, if you can see that. You got some red caps there with the flag colors going through them, and some blue caps with the flag colors going through them as well. And yeah, pretty nice. I like them.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
And that picture I got up there is from sportslogos.net. They sort of get all the first wind of all these logos and how the jerseys and things will look in advance.
Your Phillies cap looks pretty nice.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice. I like the blue. I like the darker color, which I do not see one of the Phillies in here, but I see your Mets in a darker blue with the flag colors through it. I kind of like that.
I'm always looking for something for July the 4th to wear, that represents the Mets and represents the country. And there we go. I might have to look into one of these myself.
All right, very good. So Gary's on board for that. That's awesome. And Gary, our last story of the week here, so to speak, was a little light on news for baseball, so we had to do some digging and all. But the other night, the LA Dodgers had a lopsided victory against the San Francisco Giants out there on the West Coast. And when I saw the box score, I had to smile because I saw they put Panda in. Did the Giants? Sandoval was pitching, their third baseman by trade, and he pitched a 1-2-3 ninth inning for the Giants there in that lopsided victory. So it was the first time that he had ever pitched. Amazing.
He may have a new career. I know, he always had a pretty good arm. You put third base, you got to have a decent enough arm, and guess he did okay, and he fooled the hitters. So
yeah, according to I wasn't watching the game, but it says most importantly the sight of Sandoval pumping across strikes, 8 in 11 pitches. He entertained all who witnessed his outing, including the Dodgers, whose closer Kenley Jansen laughed helplessly as he watched Sandoval. Have fun, Sandoval said. That's one of the things we're going for every day. So it was a great time there for the Giants. They knew they didn't have a chance in that ball game, and they put Pedro Sandoval out there, the Panda, and he didn't do too bad.
And I guess
Pablo.
The Dodgers could laugh because they had a big lead. So
yes, indeed, the Dodgers turning it around out there on the West Coast. We'll be keeping an eye on the what's going on with the standings here for you all week. And Gary, it was another great week and another great podcast.
Certainly was, Rich. And we're starting to get into the season now, and things will start developing. The first month, as you said earlier, is in the books or just about to end, with the games today and a game tonight. And it'll be interesting to see how these races begin to shape and to form. We're seeing some of the things going on now, but I think it's going to be a big year in baseball. Going to be a good year. Let's hope everybody gets out to the ballpark. The weather will get nicer, so
Yes.
get out to the ballpark. Their attendance has been down because of the cold, and so get out there and enjoy the game.
Yes, indeed. And as you said, yeah, attendance was down We went into the ballpark on our April passes last night, and we upgraded our seats. I got right along the first base line, probably the lowest that I've ever sat for a baseball game. It was awesome to be able to upgrade to that area. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, wow, the ticket ticket sales must be very bad to allow for that in Philadelphia, because that area was usually always sold out. But yeah, as Gary said, get out to the ballpark, check out a game, give us an email, go to our website, mlbthisweek.com, send us your comment or your voicemail. We'll be glad to get it on the show. We'll talk to you, everyone, next week on the next edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show, everyone.